The ledge is a harsh blessing, a sliver of life carved halfway between the valley floor and the uncaring sky. To Anne, it is the entire world. He lies flat, the grit of the sandstone imprinting on his cheek, and watches the panorama of prehistoric life unfold below. A family of woolly rhinos trundles through the fern-choked wetlands, their grunts carrying faintly on the wind that scours this high place on an ancient earth. The wind is a constant companion, the thief of warmth and sound, but it is also a guardian. It carries the scent of the cave lion long before its roar can climb the cliff, and it smothers the clumsy footsteps of the bear that sometimes snuffles at the base of their ascent. Down there is death, swift and clawed. Up here is survival. Up here is survival. This is the simple, brutal arithmetic that governs their existence, a truth passed down through 1,000 generations of human ancestors. Isha moves behind him, her bare feet silent on the rock. She coaxes a small flame from a bed of dried moss and twigs, a spark of defiant warmth in the vast, cold prehistoric world. This is their home. A shallow overhang, a collection of hides, a fire pit, and the sheer drop that protects them. They are a family of early humans, masters of a vertical kingdom. Their 2 children, a boy named Gor and a younger girl, Dano, play a quiet game with smooth river stones, their laughter swallowed by the immense space. Bayan's gaze lingers on them. They are the reason for the ledge, for the grueling climb, for the constant, gnawing tension in his gut. His hands, repositories of 1,000 generations of survival skills, reach for a piece of flint. The careful, percussive work of crafting Moose-Terrian tools begins. The sharp cracks are familiar, rhythm against the whisper of the wind. This is the crucible of human evolution, where a sharpened stone is the only thing that separates a full belly from an empty one. The shadow falls without warning. It is not the soft, slow passage of a cloud, but a sharp-edged, predatory eclipse that blots out the sun for a heartbeat, and is on his feet instantly, the flint forgotten. Isha snatches Ulnar, pulling the girl into the shallow cave. Gor, transfixed, stares upward. The thing that circles above them is an obscenity of nature, a sky claw. Its wingspan is wider than 3 of N, feathered in shades of rock and thundercloud. Its head, crowned with a cruel crest, swivels, and its yellow eyes, cold and ancient, fix upon the ledge. They have seen it before, a distant terror gliding on the thermals, but never this close, never this interested. The long line of hominid history has taught them to fear the predators of the ground. The sky was always a canvas of freedom. The beast turns a banking, effortless motion of profound power. It is no longer circling, it is positioning. The air grows still, the wind seeming to hold its breath. Gor finally breaks his trance, a small whimper escaping his lips as he scrambles toward his mother. He is fast, but the sky is faster. The dive is a silent plummet, a teardrop of avian death. There is no shriek, only the sudden, terrifying rush of wind. The percussive thump of immense feathers displacing the air, a useless sound of pure rage, and throws a stone axe. The primitive technology is laughable against such an adversary. It glances off the creature's thick plumage as it drops. The talons, each a curved scythe of black horn, are not aiming for the parents. They are aiming for the small, scrambling form of the boy. The scream is cut short. A scrape of talon on rock. The weightless maim into the vast, blue emptiness. Nothing, taking with it a small bundle of fur and bone. Silence returns to the ledge, heavier and more absolute than any sound. The fortress has become a trap. The days that follow are hollowed out by silence. The small fire is a lonely heart in the deepening twilight of their prehistory. Isha does not weep, her grief is a stone in her chest, a weight that pulls her shoulders down and empties her eyes. She holds Ulnar constantly, a fierce, desperate embrace, rarely letting the child stray more than an arm's length from the absolute safety of the cave's deepest recess. The river stones duo are once played with lie scattered, a sad constellation on the dusty floor. They are a family unit, a core component of hominid history now fractured. The ledge, once a symbol of their cleverness and a bastion of safety, is now just a high shelf in a predator's larder. Every shadow that drifts across the rock is a fresh stab of fear, every gust of wind a potential herald of death. But in Anne, the grief has curdled into something else. It is a cold, black rage, a thinking man's fury that does not scream but observes. He spends his days at the edge, not cowering, but studying. He becomes a scholar of his enemy. His mind, the pinnacle of human evolution in this age, begins to perform a kind of predictive archaeology on the sky. He watches the sky claw. He sees it is not a demon, but a hunter of immense skill, a creature of habit and instinct. He learns its patterns. It favors the morning sun, riding the first thermal updraft that spills over the cliff edge. It has a preferred path of approach, a long sweeping curve from the west that uses the glare of the sun as a veil. He sees it hunt again, snatching a young ibex from a herd on the slopes below, its dive a masterpiece of lethal aerodynamics. His survival skills, holes honed for terrestrial threats, must now adapt to this new vertical warfare. The idea forms slowly, pieced together from observation and desperation. It is a testament to the raw power of primitive technology. The overhang of the cave protects them. He will extend the overhang. He looks at their meager resources. The stiff, cured hides of the goats they have managed to hunt, the pile of bones from past meals, an ossuary that is the ledger of their small successes. This is the birth of their defense, a grim application of osteodontokeratic technology. He pulls the largest bison hide from their bedding. He undish a work, a silent, synchronized team, their shared loss the only language they need. With his sharpest Moustarian tools, he scrapes and cuts, while she uses a bone AWL to punch holes along the edges. The most important work is with the bones. He chooses the long, straight leg bones of deer and the formidable ribs of a ewe or ox. He sits for hours, his knuckles white, grinding the ends against the sandstone ledge. He chips and flakes with a flint blade, turning blunt bone into vicious yellow-white spikes. He is not just making tools, he is making fangs for their home. He is teaching the rock to bite back. They use sinew, tough and fibrous, to lash the sharpened bones to the hides, creating a horrific canopy. The spikes point skyward, a forest of daggers. Laboriously, using the stoutest branches hauled from the tree line below, they wedge and lever their creation into place, extending a crude, armored roof from the cave mouth out over the most exposed part of the ledge. It is a hideous thing, a patchwork of skin and bone that smells of sun-cured leather and old death. It casts a dappled, unsettling shade. But for the first time since the sky fell, a different feeling takes root on the ledge, a sliver of defiance. They have answered the shadow. Now they wait for it to return. The morning air is crisp, a clean slate. The sun climbs, and with it, the familiar thermal updraft begins to rise along the cliff face, and stands just inside the shadow of his new creation, a flint-tipped spear gripped tight in his hand. He can feel the faint vibration through the rock as the air currents shift, a phenomenon of this ancient earth he now understands with terrifying intimacy. Isha is deep within the cave, a hand clamped over Elna's mouth, not to silence a cry, but to muffle the child's breathing, as if the very sound could betray them. The silence on the ledge is absolute, a held breath. This is the culmination of their anthropology of fear, a final, desperate gambit against a creature from the age of dinosaurs. They have built their answer, now the question will be asked. It comes. A flicker of movement at the edge of the sky, a speck that resolves into the familiar, dreadful shape. The sky claw begins its long, circling ascent, riding the invisible pillar of warm air. By NS heart hammers against his ribs, a frantic drum against the vast, silent backdrop of prehistoric life. He watches it, his mind a cold catalogue of its behaviors. It makes the same wide pass to the west, placing the sun behind it. It aligns itself with the ledge. The crude canopy must look like a strange, mottled patch of rock, perhaps a fresco left unattended. The instinctual drift of a hunter spotting an easy meal is an irresistible pull, a line of code written over 1,000,000 years ago. The dive begins. It is as swift and silent as before, a plunge that seems to tear a hole in the fabric of the sky. But this time and does not roar. He does not throw his spear. He watches, his knuckles white, his entire being focused on the trap. The shadow swells, engulfing the ledge in an instant of premature night. The rush of wind is a physical blow. The skyclaw, in its final moment of descent, adjusts its trajectory, its talons extending like the fingers of a skeletal god, aiming for the heart of the shadow where it expects to find soft flesh. The impact is a sound and will never forget. It is not the thud of flesh, but a series of wet, percussive cracks, a sickening crunch of bone and hide and tearing muscle. A shriek of pure, agonized shock rips through the air, a sound utterly alien to the creature's normal vocabulary of predatory dominance. The skyclaw's lethal, unyielding thorns. It does not snatch its prey, it impales itself. One of the thick ox ribs, sharpened to a vicious point, has driven deep into the bird's breast, while another has torn through the delicate membrane of its wing. The beast thrashes, a catastrophic explosion of feathers and blood, its own momentum turning the trap into a torture device. It rips itself free, leaving behind scraps of flesh and drips of dark blood that spatter the rock. Its flight is no longer a perfect, majestic glide. It is a broken, lurching stagger, one wing beating frantically, while the other hangs at a useless, crippled angle. It careens wildly, losing altitude, before finally disappearing behind a distant ridge, trailing its own ruin. The sky above the ledge is empty. It is just sky again. And stands for a long time, the spear heavy in his hand, his body trembling with the receding flood of adrenaline. The wind blows, carrying the coppery scent of the skyclaw's blood. He looks at the canopy, at the splintered bone stake, slick and rayed. They have not killed the beast. They have tossed of pain and consequence into the mind of a creature that knew only dominance. They have used their minds, their hands, and the bones of the dead to claim this small patch of the world back from the terrors of the sky. This act, this desperate piece of engineering born from grief, is more than just survival. It is a declaration. It is the moment a hunted thing, a mere foothold in the long story of hominid history, decides it will not be food. Ishe emerges from the cave, and they look at the blood on the rock, then at Anne, and then at the vast open sky. The silence that settles is not one of grief or fear, but of a new and terrible peace, a hard-won quiet at the dawn of man's defiance. For who are we if not the children of the survivors? We are the echo of the parents who looked at the sky, a realm of gods and monsters that dealt death from above, and dared to build a roof. Their ingenious and brutal solutions to impossible problems are the bedrock of our own audacity. The courage to face an indifferent universe, not with brute strength, but with a sharpened bone, a clever hand, and a mind that could envision a future where their children were safe. That is the inheritance they left in our blood. This is the chronicle of the cliff dwellers, the first echo of our species' refusal to stay in the shadows. A distant rumble shakes the stones, not from the sky, but from deep within the earth.